With the truth, with facts, we lay you down flat. With a melanated empire, never hold back. Put the facts in the blacks and make them wise up. With a melanated empire, never hold back. With the truth, with facts, we lay you down.
Peace, love, and coconut oil family. You know how we do. Welcome. Another episode of Melanated Empire. You know how it is, family. When you hear music, if you got that rhythm within you, yo, especially my melanated family, I mean, when we hear music, yo, we can, especially a beat that resonates with you, it's like you can't stand still. The vibe just go. It's like you have to stand up and allow it to move through you. So remember our video we did, whereas I believe it was in regards to some organ, and that the body is really an organ playing the tune of life. I remember verse, we get verses in songs, you know, verses and choruses. So you now basically become an instrument for the universal, the music of life, you know, to flow through you. Now it's up to you when it passes through you, when it's your turn. When it passes through you, it's up to you now to give a good and positive vibration and meditation. Anyway, today's bill is going to be upon what is it that the Ptolemy'S, well, they say that the P is silent, but most people know them as the Ptolemy'S, but it's the Ptolemy'S. What is it that the Ptolemy'S really were on? Because I mean, a lot of scholars will mention and say to you that the Greeks actually used to come and learn at the feet of the ancient Egyptians. Some will say they were not even really allowed into the temples. They would remain on the outskirts, on the borders, and get the sipsion from there. You know what I mean? But whatever the case, when you go into Greek historical writings, you will see that they revered the ancient Egyptians and considered Egypt and Ethiopia as the place where the gods dwelt. You say when even, you know, a god was somehow absent in Greece for a while, that it actually went to Ethiopia to meet with, you know, the ancient gods them, to really sit and probably build upon its intellect, whereas I don't know if you're a god, why you still have to build on the intellect anyway, because they're talking about that sci-fi shit. Anyway, family, what was it that the Greeks were really on? Because a lot of us, when we come into the awakening, we like to mention, we like to say, you know, two very fundamental dates that remain with us is the 342 BC when the Greeks came in, and the 30 BC when the Romans came in after the Greeks. But what we should really identify and remember, when the Greeks and the Romans came in, family, that was the water, that was the remnants of that ancient African civilization, you know, the remnants. Because remember, before the Greeks and the Romans, I mean, we had Assyrian invasions, we had the Hittite invasions, we had the Persian invasions, and what the Greeks came to do really was came into Egypt behind the Persians, because before the Greeks took over in 332 BC, it was actually Persians in Egypt, family. You see what I'm saying? It began with what's that character's name, man? Cyrus the Great. Okay, Cyrus the Great. The very first battle, it was called the Battle of Pelusium in around 525 BCE, where it was Egypt against the Persian Empire. The first Persian Empire, referred to as Achaemenid's Empire. That empire was ruled by an individual called Cyrus the Great. Okay. It lasted its longest feat, family, that first Persian Empire, and then an individual called Xerxes the First. I don't know how many of the family has seen the movie 300, the very first one. Remember that character, the dark-skinned, tall character, and people like he's a god? He was the one Leonidas actually cut with the spear, right? That individual, I mean, yeah, it's a movie, and with many movies you can see that they put some elements of history. They're like the Bible. Like they take some elements of history and just plagiarize and build a whole thing around it that never actually transpired. So these are what most of these movies are, and especially the movie 300. So that character called Xerxes the First, he basically ruled and had that huge army, which was worth mentioning why actually that first Persian Empire went down in history. Now remember, I said it was the Greeks against, it was the Egyptians against the Persians, and the Persians actually won. But while the Persians won under Cyrus the Great never entered Egypt, never entered Nubia, family. It was actually, what's his name? Cambyses II that entered and declared himself Pharaoh of Egypt. Because one thing, when they come and conquer, right? They know the divinity in the title so much. When they come and conquer, they like to take on the titles. So when Cambyses II conquered Egypt, he was bestowed the title. Well, he took on the title on himself to be referred to as Pharaoh of Egypt. Okay, and later on, family, at around 480 BCE, the Persians went up into Greece and took the city of Athens. You see, and just bare destruction, and taking rule over the people. So it's like the Greeks and them, while they have no choice but to just go along with the thing, it's like they still have at the back of the head, guys, and then Persians. I said, the Persians, guys, we have to get screwed on them Persians, And after some time passed, an individual, as most of the family will know, called Alexander the Greek, the Macedonian, actually, misnomer Alexander the Great, he was the one who actually rose up with his army, okay, and marched and came into Egypt behind the Persians. And when he conquered the Persians now, he tried to take on the title being that Pharaoh of Egypt. Okay, now yes, the Nesobites, the ancient pharaohs and the kings, after being called that title king or what have you, they were actually called the Sarah, meaning the son of God. Now Alexander, knowing this, right, knowing the greatness of this place and the divinity and even the holiness, we can even say, he wanted that particular title. So he went to the priest and them to ask them, yo, I want that title to be bestowed upon me on one and what have you. And the priest was like, nah. Hold it there. On top of the king, you want to be called the son of the deity? We're not on that. No foreigners will be called no Sarah in this place here. Now the Greeks and them, as we aforementioned, already had respect and held ancient Egypt and Ethiopia in high regard, in high esteem, family. So that's why he saw it fit to go and ask. And you will still find some coinage with Alexander with the horns of Amun. You see what I'm saying? But to say, well, like they bestowed that upon him and it was actually made a deity, nah. So he respected the vibe enough to come and ask, and when they tell him no, he's like, he sort of cool out himself, you understand? But it was his general when Alexander when his time came and he passed and he transitioned and he died, right? His general called Ptolemy the First, okay, saw the whole vibe and he wanted to be that title. He wanted to have that title, family. Now mind you, while Alexander actually went and asked the priest, Ptolemy wasn't on that. The man go on, the man kill a whole set of priests, and then he go to the next set and he tell them, I want to be made a deity. So it's like you already set images, like if you don't listen to me, I go just kill you. You did like that. So I mean, most people value their life, family. So the priest was like, you know what? Okay, we will make you a deity. You know what I mean? Just spare our lives, really. And then that is when we have the erection of the deity referred to as Osiris. When they took the Apis bull, which is another rendition of Osiris, so the Apis bull, Osiris, put it together and you have Osiris, right? Osiris Christos is the proper name for that character. Okay, family? Osiris Christos. This is where we have the commencement of the creation of a doctrine that was forced upon the whole world. Many people don't like to admit it, but Melanin Empire, we're free, we're giving our point of view, our opinion based upon the sources and the research we have done, opening the eyes of the family. So this, family, is from there I start to ask us what the Ptolemy's were really on. Because Ptolemy the First, I'm so used to saying the P family, Ptolemy the First, okay, forced the priest, after being called the Pharaoh of Egypt, forced the priest to make him into a deity, which is where we have the Serapis image, that deity with the flower pot on his head. After his time in rulership, family, right, his offspring now would take the title Ptolemy II. It was Ptolemy II during his reign, according to the story, his Liberian, Ptolemy II Liberian, requested of Ptolemy II that they gather 6 out of all the 12 tribes of Israel, therefore we will have 72 elders, bring them together at Alexandria, right? Because remember, Alexandria, they already established that capital since Alexander the Great conquered the place. Gather them at Alexandria, and we will change, or we will translate the Hebrew scriptures, okay, into Greek. But anyone who read that story and go to the sources will see it is a funky story, because the document it is said that was produced as a result of the oral teachings and everything that the elders said is the Septuagint. That is the origin of the Septuagint, family. But the thing is, you cannot find no Hebrew text, okay, that predates the Septuagint. So that will tell us, okay, it was still a Greek creation. They try and say they gather where you gather in. Okay, we already know the 12 tribe thing, and there's a whole story by itself, right? Where, if, and let's just say allegedly, right, that the 12 tribes exist, right? Scattered. Where you gather in 6 elders out of all the 12 tribes of Israel and bringing them into one place, family. That's why we need critical thinking and critical analysis to see when we are being bullshitted. Straight up. You see what I'm saying? Now, Ptolemy the second, Ptolemy the first, being made into that deity. Ptolemy the second gave the authority, the authorization, right, for a set of literature or narrative to be created in regards to Ptolemy the first. Right with me, family? Ptolemy the third. What did he do? Because remember, he's in succession, right? So Ptolemy the first was Serapis. Ptolemy the second built the book or the papers in regards to what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to move and how you're supposed to venerate that deity, right? Ptolemy the third, what does he do? I mean, what's missing? If we're creating a doctrine, so we're like, you know, we have the deity, we have the papers, what are we missing? What are we missing, family? We actually missing a place for us to worship. You understand? Now, that's what Ptolemy the third did. He actually erected a place called the Serapeum. Remember, oh, Serapis? Serapeum. To worship his great-grandfather. For everybody to worship his great-grandfather, family. You see the vibe. You see it. And then Ptolemy the fourth is like that himself was too busy because all what the previous Ptolemy's had actually gained through wealth, okay, and force of taxes and different vibe on the people. He basically just come on the scene and he just want to live lavishly. Like he ain't care with nothing and he just going through. But it was Ptolemy the fifth now that come and seal up the whole vibe, because what did Ptolemy the fifth do? Ptolemy the fifth actually came with the Eucharist. You know, the bread and the wine. He came with the Eucharist. That whole ritualized act, cannibalism, if you may, to a level to complete the whole process. So, I mean, from there we put our thinking caps on, family. Now, they might say within the scientific world, you have to apply the scientific method. You cannot just say, well, just because that was done, that means is actually that was pushed on the people. You know what I mean? Like you really need to connect it dot for dot. Okay? But within our research and our videos, this is basically what we're doing. But I just was in a meditation, you know, already when you're taking the THC and you're going to a different realm, different dimension. It don't really have to be outer body necessarily, you know, astral projection, but even within my mental, I have different heavens that even I can aspire to, really. So even within myself, I was like, that's what them Ptolemy's was on you. It's like them man know it was a level of divinity, you know, within our ancient civilization, that Nile Valley culture, which actually had an influence on the rest of the world in regards to STEM, really, family. It's like science and spirituality, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We gave this to the world, family. You see what I'm saying? And the Greeks knew this. So by them individuals now seeking to come and put themselves in our place, because remember, when that Osiris image was erected, right, that image started to replace the image of Osiris in all the temples, you know. You check what I'm saying? So the man knew what they were on. It was like the beginning of starting to write the Africans out of history and replace themselves and replace us with themselves. You see, and within time it will be forgotten and it will just be world history. You check what I'm telling you, family? But the world owes a debt really to Africa, our motherland, family. And we're not just talking, oh, it's just, yes, it's called Melanated Empire. There is but one race, the human race. Everybody you see actually remnants of the African ancestor, be it whether they bred with Neanderthal or what have you, what have you. They have the trace of that African blood in them. You see what I'm saying? And if we have to go by the out of Africa theory, really, all human beings, the place of origin is the Negro, which is the word origin backwards. So again, a deeper meditation. What the man was on, the Ptolemy's, they were looking really to replace the ancient Africans, our ancestors, to replace them with themselves, for them now to become that Netero, that deity, and that symbol of divinity. But that can't happen because it is the awakening, family. You see what I'm saying? So it's just a build, just a reasoning. Keep tuning in, family. Gonna have lots more videos. Keep that fire burning you. And having said that, peace, love. Don't forget that coconut oil.